Hello, bonjour, and welcome to the Don't Waste Water podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Walter, and in today's episode, I am thrilled to welcome Kadrispahic as my guest. Harris is head of innovation at LiqTech International, a technology company specialized in high-end membrane solutions. In this episode, Harris will tell us how a Danish company aiming to develop and produce water and air filtration technologies ends up being Nasdaq listed, and what makes silicon carbide a very special material when it comes to membrane technologies. And talking of membranes, Harris will give us 3 reasons to prefer ceramic over polymer membranes, and he'll reveal how, exploring a new market vertical, LiqTech identified a need for a new membrane type, hence their brand new hybrid technology. Finally, you'll see that he shares us a glimpse into the future of membrane treatments. There's a lot of value to unpack in this episode, so we'll kick off our crash course on ceramic membranes in a jiffy, right after this.
You're listening to Don't Waste Water, the podcast that helps water professionals to improve their wastewater treatment, optimize their operation costs, and keep up with the latest market trends. This podcast is brought to you by GF Piping Systems. As a leading supplier of piping systems made of plastics and metal, GF Piping Systems is the global expert for the safe and reliable transportation of water, chemicals, and gas. For more information, visit gfps.com.
Hi, Harris. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
I'm glad to have you here. I really enjoy to start with a postcard, and I think it's the first time that I can start with a postcard from Denmark. So what can you tell me about Copenhagen?
Copenhagen is a fantastic city. We have fantastic people, fantastic nature, and for the last 10 years or so, we have also one of the world's best cuisines. Some of the world's most famous restaurants, or the ones at least that win all the prizes, are here. Noma to be one of them. It's a bit probably unexpected for this Danish capital to be mecca of the restaurants and food, but that's the reality.
So you wanted to start by testing how French I am, so to see if I'm going to debate with you about what is the best food, but okay, I'll take that as a postcard.
I only tend to look at the prices and prices, of course, on these restaurants. Don't worry, I'm not going to any of them.
Good. So, Harris, let's start with you, actually. Can you tell us a bit about your background? And then we will have a look at what you're doing right now. But I want to know where you're coming from.
I have a very colorful background. I'm originally from Bosnia, and I moved to Denmark at the age of 13. And had a chance to actually learn about this culture from scratch. And I tend to say that I still keep a lot of my Bosnian culture, but then I modified it through years to be a completely Dane with some more flavor to this Danish lifestyle. In professional life, I am a graduate from Copenhagen Business School, so not a typical technical person you'll meet. Even though I started in technical field, I ended up with a commercial background. So I'm trying to combine a lot of different flavors to my day-to-day work.
That's an interesting one. You know, our industry is full of engineers which don't do engineering and try to do some business. And you are quite of the opposite. You have a business background and you're doing quite technical stuff. How did that happen?
I actually wanted to work for the government. I always wanted to work for some sort of government agency. I started my early work days working for the government. And then after my school finished, I found this work in environmental agency. And through this environmental agency, I met a couple of people who were working in the area of water treatment and was invited to an interview. I remember now several years later that my boss told me, you know what, this ceramic stuff that you are doing, I'm really quite far from that. And he said, well, don't you worry about ceramics. We'll teach you everything about ceramics. What we need you to do is to keep everything floating, to keep everything organized, and to keep innovating. So yeah, that's how I started. But you know what? It went a couple of years later. I was involved in pretty much everything. So today I'm glad with how things developed. So I'm not. I'm really trying to play my strengths here.
So you mentioned the ceramics. You mentioned the innovation. I think that leads us to your actual role. So you're head of innovation at LiqTech. So what is LiqTech actually? And a bit further to that, what is LiqTech? I saw that LiqTech is listed in the NASDAQ. So you are a business guy doing technical stuff in a company in the water world, which is listed in the NASDAQ. That sounds like, a unicorn, but a very special unicorn.
And yeah, I mean, it's, as I said, well, it's kind of a special place to be, and we are a special type of company, I would say. Well, first of all, about LiqTech. LiqTech is a manufacturer of silicon carbide membrane, for the most part, membrane systems and membrane solutions in general, for treatment of wastewater and also exhaust gases. Sometimes people are forgetting that we are also working with diesel particulate filters. That's one of our businesses. Basically, at the wall in our company, it says this is in order to keep water clean and sky blue. So I couldn't make it more poetic. But then we have, of course, the whole business spectrum of water treatment, which is, we are, of course, providers of silicon carbide membrane and full-scale solution systems. And we will help our customers make growth sustainable when it comes to, in relation to their profits and the environment. And that's most important. I mean, we are helping companies to achieve green growth. As I said, a good place to be. When it comes to NASDAQ, that's a bit more of a history of the company. We were listed in 2012 at the New York Stock Exchange. That's where we started. And this became this idea that water sector is going to be next big growth industry. Maybe some people saw it as next dot-com boom or some sort of place where it's going to be growing and growing. It was, but probably not as much as a lot of people expected, but it still gives us a very sustainable growth. And last year we moved to NASDAQ, and the reason for that is that NASDAQ welcomes more of a technological profile of companies, and that's where we found out that it's more fit for a company such as ours. So if somebody wants to invest in green and not, let's say, tobacco, not to say one bad word about tobacco companies, this could be a place. And I'm not selling anything here.
So that's about the company, but what about your role? You're head of innovation. So what does that cover?
Well, that covers, well, first of all, I started working with development projects. The development projects, this was in early days of LiqTech, back LiqTech International several years ago. We were actually trying to find this perfect fit for our membrane, not only membrane, actually perfect fit for ceramic material, silicon carbide ceramic material. And we had quite a few different European funded projects, national funded projects, in general projects where the several different companies, sometimes even competitors, were involved. That was the original idea for me. And then as time went on, I started looking at different markets for our membrane, different innovative fields. Today we are working in topics such as microplast removal, just to name something. And also we are heading towards some other potential candidates such as chemical industry for gas shift, where membranes are used, but it's not on our current portfolio. Other than that, from a business perspective, I'm also looking at potential markets that could be I'm studying legislation moves from different sectors, European Union, for example, and trying to see where this is heading and how we can fit into these regulations. Because if we face it, if we are real about our industry, it's very, very dependent on regulation. I mean, no regulation,
Sure.
No membrane companies, and no exhaust filters.
So what is the latest evolution that you noticed and which is going to trigger something in our industry?
Well, there is a lots of debate here in Denmark. Let's start with it because it's easiest to start home. For many years in Denmark, it was taught for everyone from kids to school to the elderly that water is not treated in Denmark. There is no water treatment because it's so ultra pure, ultra clean from nature. We are using, for the most part, we are using groundwater. But sometimes you cannot hide away from the fact that we need to eat something. And while these farmers are trying to grow potatoes or what they are trying to do, they are using all types of pesticides in order to have their business intact. These are the realities of the world. Now, of course, nature will remember now these pesticides that are used 20 years ago will eventually end up in our groundwater, and then this groundwater needs to be treated. So this is, of course, there's something that started like academic idea a couple of years ago till today, that we are looking at the numbers from different waterworks and finding out that the levels are quite high, and some of the water that we are actually going to intake in the next couple of years needs to be treated. It needs to be treated with our membranes and plus some other technologies, most likely, unfortunately.
So that means that today, if you're making drinking water treatment in Denmark, you could be removing those trace pesticides which are in the groundwater using your technology.
It's not as simple, but in essence it is. Yeah, it is like that. It's still treatment of this water. People are trying to use some low-cost technologies to keep this treatment at minimum. But this treatment of the groundwater will eventually come, because at some point these simple technologies wouldn't be enough for this type of treatment. So that's basically what we are looking at right now. And the innovation, when it comes to innovation in that field, we are looking to actually make our membrane active with the active catalyst layer, which would be able to specifically target these compounds. And this is the next step in membrane evolution. This is where lots of companies are looking at.
So actually, let me guess, that must be your new hybrid technology membrane that you're introducing right now.
Actually, no. We are on our way there, but this is our step to that direction. Active layer membranes are still on a drawing board, and it's going to be something that we are going to look at in the future, because look at your podcast. Don't waste water. I mean, you'll need to kind of keep lots of compounds that you have in wastewater, and these membranes that will eventually come will be able to actually target the compounds that you want to remove. So if you are working in the food sector, then you could target only, let's say, protein and let everything go through. So this would be next step. When it comes to hybrid technology membrane, it's step between. Hybrid technology membrane is, first of all, it's an ultrafiltration membrane. We are placing it below 100 nanometers, which we haven't done so with our commercial silicon carbide membrane. And that membrane, we are looking at customers such as food and beverage industry such as dairies, where we can look at applications that previously weren't available for us. due to different pore sizes that we had on our membrane.
We'll come back to this new type of membrane, but I'd just like to take just a step back and try to understand what you mentioned earlier as the biggest chunk of your business right now, which is your silicon carbide technology. So for the really stupid, so that's me, sorry, that means it's ceramic membrane, right?
It's ceramic membrane. And it's not only a ceramic membrane, sometimes there are different types of ceramics. Usually they are made of carbide, which is ours, and oxides. And oxide, its most common membrane is made of alumina oxide. And then after that is titanium oxide. Then there is zirconia membranes, and then there is carbide membranes such as silicon carbide. What's unique about these membranes is that it tends to outperform also the other silicon carbide membranes. And this is very relevant in industries where pH values are very, very high, where viscosity levels are high, where there is a problem with the oil levels, oil water, and in general, the industries where you actually need your membrane to withstand everything you throw at it. And this is where we tend to excel. It's also, if you look at our business portfolio right now, the markets, we are in oil industry, we are in power plants, mining industry. So these are heavy industries, heavy industrial sites, you can say.
So you're at home in harsh conditions, if I get it right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you do the membrane only, or also the module and the systems around?
We are right now two companies. One is where I'm sitting. We are solely producing silicon carbide membranes, while LiqTech Water are producing systems, and they are producing turnkey solutions for our customers. Now, there is, of course, this everything in between which we share, but usually our customers, so far at least, would tend to say, you know what, we have this problem with this type of pollution, we need you to solve it for us. And we would come up with, of course, heart of our system would be silicon carbide membrane, but then we will, of course, look at several other technologies for pre-treatment and after-treatment if necessary, such as RO membranes where it's necessary.
Okay. You mentioned, when we were discussing about NASDAQ and Dow Jones, you mentioned that water is a growing field, and I think it's true, because the concern, I mean, it's not a good news somehow. It means that we have always more problems with our water, so we need to treat it always more. But one of the fields which is the biggest growth over the last probably decade is membrane technology. But correct me if I'm wrong, the biggest chunk of those membranes are the polymer membranes, right? So if I'm very, very sketchy, for harsh conditions, you would go to ceramic membranes and eventually to your silicon carbide technology. And for, let's say, easy waters, you would go for polymer membranes. I mentioned in the beginning, I'm the stupid, so I might be totally wrong, but what's your take there?
You're completely right. I mean, this is the history of the membrane, and what's important to understand that this is not now me talking as LiqTech, but I'm talking about the whole ceramic industry. What happened in the early days in membrane world is that the numbers, the sheer volume of produced membranes were taken by polymeric membranes. And this is due to several factors, but the fact is that they are easier to produce, one, and two, they are cheaper, and this goes kind of hand in hand. So this sheer volume tends to play a quite significant role. For the ceramic companies, then we needed to play catch up, and we did that for many, many years, where we would... in order for us to produce membranes at low price, we need to have a constant order inflow, constantly to be able, let's say, to fill our furnaces, because furnace is the key when you produce silicon or any ceramic membrane. So, of course, the bigger furnaces you have and the less firing per membrane, the price goes down. Now, this tend to go, of course, hand in hand with the price. So, in order for us to keep the price down, we need the order inflow, but we need to fight with the already established market, which is the market for polymeric membrane. Now, for many years, we heard that this is going to switch towards a more ceramic area, not only for the industries where polymeric membranes are excluded, but also places such as municipal wastewaters, etc. And since 2015-16, we've seen some big projects delivered from some of our competitors, which could look like a good step for the future. And then, of course, there is us, who have a great value in this heavy polluted or heavy industries. And of course, while we have all these big projects, it will tend to bring price down for ceramic membranes. And then, of course, this is like a snowball. Everything has a snowball effect. Of course, when we bring our prices down, then of course we'll be able to offer our customers more value for their money. And then when you have market acceptance to ceramic membranes, then of course one helps the other. And that's just how it goes. The truth is that if we look at the market predictions right now, I mean, in the next couple of years, everybody expects that market will still be dominated by, a couple of big companies. And of course, these big companies, they have consolidated their positions and they are using polymeric membranes. And that's just how it is. But then I'm quite optimistic when it comes to ceramic membranes, whether it's us or our competitors.
So let's make an exercise. Let's say I'm operating an industrial wastewater treatment plant, which is a good thing because in that podcast, you cannot imagine how many plants already acquired. But let's assume I'm operating such a plant and I have polymer membranes since the 90s. So I'm 30 years in. Yeah, I cannot say that I have nasty experiences with them, but I'm not so happy neither. But what would be your top 3 arguments for me to switch from polymer to ceramic? Let's forget the price, because I got your point with price and the flywheel and the fact that it's a numbers game. But what would be the top 3 technical arguments for me to switch?
Well, the best arguments you can have is these membranes are indestructible. There is no downtime, essentially. There is no downtime. There is no resting period, which you'll also see with the polymeric membranes. So basically, you can run your operation, wherever it is, you can run it, I wouldn't say non-stop, but almost non-stop. Then there is of course looking at, and you say let's not look at the money, but we need to look at the money. I mean, the operation savings are quite high because of this. First of all, downtime is low. Second of all, the energy consumption is much lower than using polymeric membrane, and this is due to low pressure on the system. And then of course, I read this article from a British professor where he said, well, people are just tired of operational problems when it comes to polymeric membranes, and they just want to switch to something that works. Now, it's not plain simple. You just switch one to one, and then everything works. Of course, it's not in a perfect world. But using these 3 arguments, I mean, there is no one who can state that they have no problem with downtime, they have no problem with high energy consumption, they have no problem with changing the membranes often, etc. So that's really bad for your long-term business. You sell membrane and then you never have to replace them. You know, I've been working for a company which had this problem. Our systems were so sustainable that we just never heard from our customers again.
I'm joking, but at some point that's going to prevent the ultimate growth once you've populated the full Earth with your systems. Don't expect you to to answer that cheaty question.
Anton, there is plenty of water out there. It's not. Last year, the world spent $1.5 billion on membranes. This is only last year. And it's not like this is going away. It's not like market is everybody's using membrane. Well, what we can say for sure that there are more and more people needing water in general, but clean water. Well, also us in Europe, we will experience water shortages. It's just matter of time. So even in Denmark, as I said, we will experience that quality of water will go down. So there is a plenty of opportunities. So that argument that it's bad for our business, that our customers are happy, it's not really valid.
So if I just put that in a nutshell, the first argument is no downtime. The second argument is it's predictable because you can just operate it. You don't have to have some afterthoughts. And at the end of the day, you have better operating costs because you can run with less pressure.
Yes, of course.
So that was for silicon carbide technology or ceramic membranes, one of which, probably the best of which, is silicon carbide technology. But you're introducing a new type of membrane. So that's called hybrid technology membrane. So if it's hybrid, I guess it's a mix of things. So what exactly is this hybrid technology membrane?
First of all, a bit history again.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just need to tell a story.
No, that's fascinating.
Back in 2015, we were invited to development projects in Denmark. Everybody who is anybody within the food and beverage sector, it was there. So that was your well, just to mention a company that you probably know, let's say it's probably the best beer in the world. So Carlsberg were there, amongst others. So slaughterhouses were there.
I have to stop you there because you started the podcast by claiming that the best restaurant in the world are in Copenhagen, all the best beer is in Denmark. You really want to
I'm sorry.
Start a fight with me.
Look, they say probably. I'm not arguing against probably. Okay. You cannot argue against that. And the best football club is in Liverpool in the world are using their on their shirts. So come on, this is winning argument. No.
Okay. No. So you that's fair.
No. Let's get no. So back in 2015, we were invited to this. Basically, it was an amazing development project. The idea was that food and beverage sector are going to reduce their use of fresh water intake by 25%. That was in 2015. Now, of course, nowadays, I mean, not everybody, but lots of industries are looking at these numbers like their sustainability goals. So we entered the project with our silicon carbide membrane, and we soon realized that actually our membrane is not suitable for these types of streams. And we could use our silicon carbide membrane as a pre-filtration, but we couldn't use it for this emerging business, which is protein up concentration, just to state something. And this was a nice eye-opener. First of all, we had a chance to really talk to companies who could, we could all be around the table and they could say, you know what, guys, we think we can save money here and here and here. And they knew everything about their business. And we were water treatment people, so we knew everything about water. So sometimes it's just taking water from one place and placing it in another place and then saving some water there. So it was really a nice exercise. But in the end of the day, we figure out, you know what, if we are going to be in this market, food and beverage industry in general, then we need to do something about our membrane. So we went back to the drawing board and start looking at different possibilities. Now, silicon carbide in general is an amazing material, but what's difficult with silicon carbide, it's notoriously difficult to control. So if I'm to produce a membrane and say, well, I want a 100 nanometer membrane, I may succeed, but if I say I'm going to constantly switch between 80 nanometers and 120 nanometers and back to 100 nanometers, then I probably wouldn't be able to do it because it's very, very difficult membrane or material to work with. So we figured if we are going to enter industry such as food and beverage, then we need to have several products on the shelf. And one of the criteria, and there are some non-negotiables when it comes to our business. And one is that it needs to be completely chemically inert. That means that you can throw wherever you want on the membrane. It needs to survive. And it needs to have a significant mechanical strength. And we were looking at perfect materials, and we had some ideas. So we chose a material that is very, very well known in the food sector, which is zirconia oxide. And this is food grade material, which means that it's easier to get your product approved. Yeah, so you have an easier way to approve your product by using something known, and the zirconia oxide is a known ceramics. But then again, we needed to keep everything that I said before. So this was basically the project. So create a perfect membrane that we need to have below 100 nanometers. This is what the market expected from us. And then again, keep our chemical resistance, mechanical resistance intact. So not going to compromise with that. So we made this version of the membrane that is able to check all these points. And what's great feature about this type of membrane is that now we can control it. So if there is a need for a range between 40 to 100 nanometers, then we can apply this particular range. So to say if it's going to be 70 or 80 or 90 or 100, which we couldn't do before with silicon carbide.
So it opens you the door of the ultrafiltration, if I get you right. Before you were doing, let's say, microfiltration, and now you can also do ultrafiltration, or do I oversimplify it?
Yes, that's a good way to put it. I mean, if you are going to put ultrafiltration in one bracket, then you can say, yeah, we can do ultrafiltration with our silicon carbide steel membrane. But you have to, I mean, we are still calling it silicon carbide because majority of the membrane is silicon carbide still.
So that means that basically you keep all the advantages of your material, which, by the way, you know well. And on top of that, you add a new capability, which is to be able to control the pore side. And that's what helps you to solve the issue in the wastewater reuse application inside specific segments such as food and beverage.
Exactly. That was the idea, and that's where we succeeded. So next step for us with the hybrid technology is that to make market open eyes for it. And the good way to start is food and beverage industries, and we already have some very nice ideas on and very nice partnerships with several end users about this potential technology.
So you've released your marketing launch a couple of weeks ago. What about your product roadmap? Where are you right now? Is the product already there? Is it off the shelf? Can it be ordered? Or do you have some flagship projects you are working on?
This is going to be, next step is more on development of applications than the development of the product. So it's going to be our guys in LiqTech Water are going to make several tests at several different industries, and dairy industry being one of them, to find the perfect fit for these types of membranes. But then this is only start, of course.
So you mentioned that you have many branches into LiqTech, and you just said that there's this other LiqTech Water, which is going to look at the applications. If I understood right, your website, which is beautiful, by the way. There's also LiqTech plastic manufacturing. So you have plastic manufacturer, you have the water systems, and you have the membranes, which all together build a full stack company from A to Z. Is that the vision, or do you also work agnostically with other players on the market?
These companies are there because they make a lot of sense to what we do. So in general, again, a bit history. LiqTech, which is now LiqTech Ceramics, which is based in Copenhagen, We existed since 1999, so early to 2000. It's 20 years now, so we existed for 20 years. And in 2014, we acquired LiqTech Water. So they were our customers, basically. This engineering company which provided the system. And by doing that, of course, we entered a whole new field, pool and spa area, where they were really, really amazing. And then several years later, now we have 2020. We did basically more or less the same thing with now LiqTech Plastic, because LiqTech Plastic were already component provider to our systems. So we kind of integrated this company into our systems. So the basic idea is, of course, to have all the knowledge in-house, which, of course, makes a customer happy, because we can plan everything from A to Z by ourselves and deliver everything by ourselves.
So that means that in the span of 5 years, you've acquired LiqTech Water, you've acquired LiqTech Plastics, which helped you to build the full package solution. You've developed the hybrid technology membrane. You've found a very good use case at Carlsberg. So, I have, apart from my hobby of acquiring plants in every interview, I have another hobby, which is I have my crystal ball. And with my crystal ball, I can let you have a look to where LiqTech will be in 5 years. So what's your vision? Where are you heading?
Well, we are heading towards being, first of all, most dominative ceramic membrane provider.
That's bold.
There's no doubt about that. But then we are aiming at developing new markets, and we are also aiming on developing new solutions to our customers, which are not necessarily only solely based on membranes, but to be able for our customers to choose a full portfolio of different technologies in the water sectors. I think still within 5 years we are focusing in areas where is industrial wastewater. This is most natural fit. But again, I think in 5 years we'll have a whole portfolio of different solutions for our customers.
Can I ask a very stupid question? Let's say, I'm not really oversimplifying, but you had the microfiltration, now you have the ultrafiltration. What's next? Nanofiltration, reverse osmosis? Is it something which is achievable with ceramic material?
When it comes to the reverse osmosis, it's probably a bit stretch. Actually, I was asked by this amazing engineer. I had a meeting with yesterday. He said, "Why not?" Well, there are some limitations, and some professors in Holland will now laugh if they ever heard this, because we had these ideas on the table for several years. Next step is definitely going to be nanofiltration within ceramic membranes. It's already in the market, but then we'll have again our own flavor and our own take on these types of membranes. That's where we are heading. And then don't forget, from the start of the interview, I said we are probably also going to have some sort of active layer on our membrane where we can target specific components that are unhealthy.
So that would be really aiming, because you mentioned the microplastics, but the microplastics are a physical pollution, which means can be sorted out with membrane pretty logically. But you mentioned also pesticides, and there I think you need to have a kind of active something which is also targeting those compounds. So that's the next frontier with selective membranes, if I get you right. Is that science fiction, or is it something which is really coming in the next decade?
Definitely not science fiction. Science fiction would be ceramic reverse osmosis membrane. Not because it's not doable, because I honestly think that reverse osmosis membrane are good as they are. So we would offer pre-treatment solutions that will prolong the life and make life easier for these operators. So there is probably not really need. I don't see a need out there. But active layer on a membrane, this is definitely not sci-fi. We already have a couple of projects we are looking at, and we are working on the development with through a Eurostar program, with the European Union. So this is something that we already can see developing. So it's definitely not sci-fi.
So when shall we schedule our next interview to discuss those new membrane types? 2 years, 5 years?
Well, time flies. Let's say in 2 years we will definitely have a new product on the shelves, and it's going to be much more amazing than what we have on our portfolio right now. It will even beat what we have in HTM membrane.
That's a really, really appealing take. So, okay, I think I have nothing in my calendar for 2022 so far. So.
just before Christmas, and then we'll talk there.
Perfect.
And after that we'll have a lunch. I know this amazing restaurant.
Hey, now it sounds like a deal. Aris, if it's fine with you, I'd like to switch to the rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
It's time for the rapid fire questions.
So actually, for the rapid fire questions, the rule is pretty simple. I try to keep the questions short. So preferably, if you can keep the answers short, that's good as well. You'll see that the one which is always deviating from the script is me. So don't worry. I'm not going to close the microphone if you want to explain a bit longer. So first, what is the most exciting project you've been working on and why?
Most exciting project is a project called LBL, which was a project with, among others, which was with the LiqTech and Panther X-Flow. And this project was very successful in terms of developing a new membrane. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful for LiqTech, but it gave us an idea on how to work with our membrane in order to come to close to this Panther X-Flow membrane.
What is your favorite part of your current job?
Working every day with the most amazing scientists.
You mean scientists in-house, externally?
Both. There is absolutely amazing. There are amazing scientists out there, which I have lots of them. I have on my speed dial, and I couldn't imagine this just 10 years ago. It's just an amazing feeling.
Okay, so speaking with all the scientists, you will have a very good answer to the next one, which is what is the trend to watch out in the water industry?
Trend, I can state only for the membrane industry. Trend for the membrane industry is more sustainable production, which means less chemicals and more reuse, which in the end will fit nicely towards a better products, and which goes full circle from production to customers and back to the production.
So that was for the membrane industry, but for the water industry, would you have a guess?
Yeah, I will take a shot. I think we'll see a steep incline in water technology, different types of water technology throughout the world. We will also see come back to Europe, where I think within the next 5 years it could potentially be a growth market due to different legislations that are envisaged will come shortly.
Okay. So what is the thing you care about the most when you're working on a new project or developing a new product? And what is the one you care the least?
The thing I care about most is, that's easy one, is the environment. That's the thing I care about the most. It will get me going. Luckily, I have, from time to time, I wouldn't say several times a year, because it's from time to time, I'm sitting around the table with legislators from Europe, but also from Denmark. And I'm asked what are technological capabilities of different systems, and I'll provide them answer knowing very well that this is also where legislation will come next time around, because legislator will only place it what's achievable for the world, and not more. Of course, you cannot legislate for something that is not out there. So this is one of the feeling that that in my job I really feel that I can make a change for the better. That's the most amazing feeling of my job.
And what's the thing you care the least?
Oh my God. What's the least? No, I'm very excited about lots of things. Well, let's see. Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know. I need to say. I wanted to say. Our local sandwich shop is not what I care about least, but the guys are ordering from there. But then sometimes they do order great sandwiches, so that's not even that. Hope it answers your question.
Okay, so I'll count that as a joker. Do you have sources to recommend to keep up with the water and wastewater market trends?
Do I have sources? I tend to read Global Water Intel. That's kind of my Bible, digital Bible, I have to say. Then there are plenty of reports from Frost and Sullivan that I tend to read. Then there are quite a few national small usually digital sites or papers that you can get lots of information about our industry.
And last question, would you have someone to recommend that we should definitely invite as soon as possible?
Yeah, I think you could invite some of our local guys from Denmark. I think I can provide you a couple of names, but I have this amazing company that are making energy out of salt water and fresh water. So this is the next step in a global energy solutions, which I'm quite amazed about.
Okay, you got me hooked. So I'm looking for your recommendation. So Haris, it was a very interesting interview on my end. I discovered many things which I totally ignored about silicon carbide technology and now even hybrid technology membranes. So thanks a lot for that. If people want to follow up with you, where can they find you?
I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I think I'm out and out LiqTech guy. And so if somebody wants to look for LiqTech, that's LiqTech for LinkedIn, please follow our page, and you'll find lots of interesting stuff.
Well, I'll put the links in the episode notes as well. And that's a nice way to conclude our session. Thanks a lot, Haris. We have an appointment for 2022. You have to take me to a very nice restaurant, I heard. So I'm not forgetting that one.
All right. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to Don't Waste Water. This podcast was brought to you by GF Piping Systems. Loved this episode? Head over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. See you next time.